It's a no for me, dog.
No.
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 Welcome back, everybody, to Big Apple Hockey's Who Says No. Usually this is our conversation about mock trades that Anthony will come up with. But this one, we're going to look at some potential playoff matchups and then wondering which team is going to be a little bit more scared of the other one. Let's go to one that would be immensely entertaining, guys. So, Florida versus Tampa this season, 2-1, and they have a two goals per game average, allowing only 2.33. Sounds not that impressive, but Florida has the 2 wins. Phil, which team do you think says no on this game?
I don't know if Tampa wants to see Florida right now. I think that might end up being one of the most entertaining playoff series in the entire playoff format this year, if that ends up becoming a series. So I do think, I think I'm with Evan on this. I think whoever wins that series would go to the Cup. I don't trust Toronto. They don't know how to play defense properly in the playoffs. Their goaltending isn't good enough. Who the hell trusts Stolars?
Or
you trust Anthony Stolars? Wait. If the answer to your question is Anthony Stolars, then what the hell is the question? That's what I want to know at that point. Really, I think Tampa can beat them. I don't think this Florida team is as strong as they were previously, especially not having someone like Brandon Montour anymore. I mean, they lack some puck movers. I get they got Seth Jones, but do you really take Seth Jones over Brandon Montour at this point? I don't know about that. I think Tampa can beat them. I think Tampa's depth is better than it's been in previous years, and they're still getting the production they need from the big guns. And the big guns are all guys that know how to win because they've been there for those 2 cups. So, I mean, Ekblad, let's see how Ekblad comes back from that suspension.
Yep.
God knows we don't know how this is going to be. Is this going to be another Nate Schmidt situation? I mean, Nate Schmidt has not been the same player since his bust. I'll tell you that.
Well, Anthony, which team do you think is kind of trembling about this matchup?
This is tough. I agree with a lot of people, Phil, and people in the comments. I mean, this series would be really entertaining. They don't like each other when it comes to playing in the playoffs. It's really, honestly, it's a toss-up for me. I love the acquisitions of Bjorkstrand and the reacquisition of Gord for Tampa Bay. That makes them much deeper. But I'm gonna say Tampa says no, just because I'm giving the benefit of the doubt the defending Cup champs. And you got to consider, as Phil alluded to, they're going to be getting back Matt Tkachuk and Brad Marchand for the playoffs. Those are two big time players that show up in big moments. And then Ekblad's going to be back from suspension too. So those are 3 really good players that are going to be getting back for a team that is already really good without them. So I say Tampa says no.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Tampa. I mean, right now, if you're Florida, you don't want any part of the Lightning anyway. You'd rather go face the Ottawa Senators. You know you can handle them, but so they got to finish strong. But I mean, this would be the 4th series between these teams in the last 4 years since 2020, when they had that epic the first 3 games, if I recall correctly.
That's a felt messed up, but
you know what I'm happy about? It wasn't me slipping up on that one, Phil. But also I hesitate, guys, on not getting a little bit of a cupcake. Maybe if Florida had, no offense to Ottawa, who's been better, they've been better than the Rangers, I'll tell you that. But if Florida had Ottawa, that's a little bit more of a cupcake for them. They can slowly work back in Tkachuk and Marchand and even Ekblad. But versus Tampa, they could be a wagon. And the other question is, and Tampa knows this, the Florida wear and tear that they've had the last 2 years with the Stanley Cup run last year and the finals run the year before. So we will see whether or not Florida is up for trying to pull a Tampa. The Winnipeg Jets, right now, they'd be in position to take on the St. Louis Blues. You look at the Winnipeg Jets. They have the most wins in the NHL, second most in points. The Capitals have 2 more. 3.45 goals for per game. That's third in the league. 2.38 goals against per game. Best in the NHL. But here's the caveat. Since the Four Nations tournament, is there any team hotter than the St. Louis Blues, who right now are 13-2-2, 28 points in that span, best in the league, 4.06 goals for per game, and 2.18 goals against per game. I missed what the comment was.
No, Diane said go Islanders because she's just not happy with the Rangers, and someone hacked Diane.
And by the way, guys, one thing about the St. Louis Blues, Connor Hellebuyck, 1-1 against them, .917 save percentage. He's looked somewhat human. Anthony, which one of these teams would tremble at the other one?
So I appreciate the legwork you did there to show that obviously the Blues are really hot right now. But it's still the Blues that say no. I mean, they're still the Winnipeg Jets. Outside of Washington, my money best team in the league, Connor Hellebuck's a wall. I know Velarde's actually out. I don't know how long he's going to be out, but he should be back for the playoffs. So, just Velarde, Scheifele, Ehlers, Connor, Lowry, Niederreiter, they got really good depth. They're the best, one of the best teams in the league for a reason. So, yeah, the Blues say no here, and I get it. I'm giving credit to the Blues. They're starting to pull away that last wild card spot. I think they're up 4 points on Calgary now, 5 on Vancouver. Certainly playing good hockey. They did the Islanders and Rangers a favor yesterday by waxing Montreal. So thanks to them. But yeah, they're playing well, but they still have Jordan Binnington. I know he's been better this year, but I don't know, something about him. I still doesn't strike fear in the hearts for me. I think Winnipeg would expose him and the Blues overall in a playoff series. So, yeah, the Blues say no here for me.
It's definitely the Blues for a lot of the same reasons that Anthony mentioned. And I'll highlight this comment from MYR for Life. I don't see those vibes at all. I don't. They're playing well right now. Don't get me wrong. It's still a small sample size. It's not like from January 1st where they were the worst team in the league in 2019, and then they went the second half of the entire season and then went into the playoffs with this great run. They don't have a lot of the guys that really did a lot of the work for them there. Like, there's no more Ryan O'Reilly. Like, Ryan O'Reilly was a point per game Selke caliber player back then. He ended up winning the Conn Smythe. Binnington, I guess when Binnington, there's a big game, Binnington turns up a bit, which is good. But do you really trust a defense that's kind of highlighted by Colton Parayko, Cam Fowler, and Justin Falk? There's no Torrey Krug right now. I don't even know if he's going to be back. I love Dylan Holloway, tell you that. Dylan Holloway has 60 points now and 24 goals. Like, that offer sheet looks amazing.
And I was just focusing on Broberg being a good pickup.
Yeah, Broberg's been very good for I don't know. I think that we're looking at a team that's played well enough to make the playoffs, but does that team really strike fear in the heart of anybody? I don't think so. Who's the guy that's really going to break open that series for them?
Jordan Kyrou or Robert Thomas, I guess.
Well, that's one thing I was going to bring up, Phil. Do you know who leads the NHL in scoring since the Four Nations tournament? Robert Thomas.
For me, I don't know. I just, there's not a whole lot that worries me if I'm Winnipeg. If I'm Connor Hellebuyck, I don't see any great shooting threats on that team. And I'm kind of foaming at the mouth. So, but again, it comes down to structure, comes down to defense, it comes down to buying in. And Winnipeg has bought into what Scott Arniel is providing to them. So I like Winnipeg a lot more in this series than I like St. Louis.
I think the Blues, it's just pick your poison right now for them, because they might leapfrog over Minnesota. We'll talk about that more in the Bar Talk segment. But if you go with that, the hottest goalie in the league right now, the second hottest, let me say, is probably Jordan Binnington, who has a .912 save percentage and a .219 goals against. Because the one goalie I would say even hotter than him, well, also Sergei Bobrovsky. There's a couple other guys I can make a case for. But the hottest goalie in the league is Aiden Hill. .935 save percentage in the last 9 games that he's played with a .188 goals against. Like those are great numbers. He's starting to get ready for the playoffs. So if you're not getting Connor Hellebuck, you're going to get Vegas, who they look like they could be a wagon too. St. Louis is playing really well. I don't think, but right now the Winnipeg Jets, the thing about them is they know what they are. They know what they're doing. Phil, you're right about the buy-in. They're on cruise control. They're like, all right, let's start the playoffs. Like,
that's the only thing I would worry about. That's the only thing I would worry about with Winnipeg is that they have not had to play important hockey in a long time because they've just been on cruise control all year. I mean, it's not like the Rangers, where the Rangers had to literally fight for the division because they decided that they didn't want to play Laviolette's 1-3-1 last year, or it's that's a big thing. You got to worry about that.
That is something to worry about, but also the other thing is true too. When they're like, oh, this has been our playoff run to get there. Like, I always love the expression, last night was our game 7. Yeah, but do you have the actual energy and mindset for game 7 the next night? Because you get some teams that do that, like in a playoff series, they'll play hard for game 6, and then game 7, they got nothing left. All right, guys, let's go to another meeting of the Edmonton Oilers versus the LA Kings. It's a potential 4th straight meeting, 3-0. But then again, guys, look at LA and their home and road splits. 25-3-4. Oh, sorry, 26-3-4, because I didn't include last night's win. So 26-3-4 versus 14-18-1 on the road. Edmonton, they've been sputtering 7-7-1 since the Four Nations tournament, where their superstar Connor McDavid won that tournament, and Leon Draisaitl wasn't invited. Sorry, buddy. But both of them are also nursing some injuries. Guys, I'll start this one off. I think the Edmonton Oilers want no part of the LA Kings right now, but they're going to get them. That's all that matters. And they can sit back and go, all right, it's the Kings. We beat them in the first round, basically the last 3 seasons. This Kings team is different. They are very different. And Andrei Kuzmenko, who we kind of laughed about, that the Kings got him, he's really fit in well with them. And I think there's something a little bit of different edge to the Kings this year. And I think there's a little bit of an edge missing from the Oilers. Phil, I'm going to say it's the Oilers that don't want this.
Their second, they have the second least goals allowed. I think Winnipeg is the only team that's allowed less goals. But they're 19th with 205 scored. I still think LA might say no to this because Edmonton can go off and score goals. LA can't. And, I mean, you talk about, playing them every year, it seems like. I mean, last 3 years in a row, they lost in the first round to Edmonton. But at what point does LA break through and start scoring goals? And their power play isn't good either. Their power play is ranked in the bottom 10 of the league. So how does LA win this series if they can't score? And
that's a good point.
I mean, the guys that you need to be, scoring for you and being the guys that lead the charge, are they really, getting the job done here? Like, Adrian Kempe has only 58 points in 70 games. That's their leader in scoring. And a 37-year-old Anze Kopitar has 57 points in 70 games and doesn't even have 20 goals. Kevin Fiala, who was a point-per-game guy a few years ago, 28 goals, 50 points in 69 games. Quentin Byfield, after a 55-point year last year, 44 points in 70 games this year. Warren Fogel's been a nice surprise, 20 and 40, but like Philip Deneau, you signed him for $6 million a year to what? To be a strict shutdown center? He's got 37 points in 69 games. And I don't even trust Darcy Kemper. I don't. I mean, I know the numbers for them this year aren't like bad or anything like that, but like
they're quite good.
918 and 210. I mean, they're good, but do you trust him in a playoff series? I mean, I'm not saying Edmonton's got a brick wall in net with Stuart Skinner or anything like that, but Connor McDavid could go off, score 2 points per game in a series again, and LA's gone in 5 games. And it's happened before. And you know what? I think it happens again. I think LA wants nothing to do with Edmonton. I think there's PTSD there.
But right now, LA would be at home, and look at their home record. They are unbelievable at home.
Regular season.
That could be a difference maker.
Regular season.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. But they're a very good home team. Very good home team. And yeah, I mean, you laid out their offense. I mean, they do it by committee. They've got a bunch of guys with 50 points, a couple of guys with 40 points. But they defend really well. They play solid team defense hockey. And yeah, you're absolutely right about Darcy Kemper, about trusting him. But he also has a Stanley Cup at the end of the day, so he's been there before.
Sub 900 save percentage in Stanley Cup Finals.
So, I don't know. I mean, I the way I'm going to look at it is, I think if the Oilers are the 2 seed, I think their Kings are going home once again. Because I think that's how much of a different team the Kings are at home as opposed to on the road. Like, if the Kings are home, though, I think maybe this is the year they get by the Oilers. I'm going to say the Oilers say no, just because I'm putting that much faith in the Kings at home and how dominant they've been. Because their record is absurd. And I know pointing out playoffs is different, but that home record is absolutely absurd.
Yeah, and also, by the way, right now, Darcy Kemper, since the Four Nations break, 917 save percentage, 1.91 goals against average. He's actually been playing pretty well. And the question is, how banged up is McDavid and Draisaitl right now when they're saying they're
That's
at
a good
least
point.
a week away?
I would say if those guys get back and they're healthy and they're good to go, the one thing that we haven't brought up is that Edmonton is a team that's hungry. They are a team that's absolutely hungry after that loss to Florida. And
your ideas are intriguing to me, and I wish to subscribe to your newsletter.